Hello, everyone. Welcome to Support the Literacy Needs of All Your Students with Read and Write. You are in the right place if that is the webinar you were planning on attending this afternoon. We're going to give it a couple of minutes for people to get on and join us, but I want to start with a couple of things. I actually have a poll question that I am about to launch. So I am going to launch this poll question. The poll is open. Please take a look at the question and answer whatever fits you best. And also, if you would like to follow along with your own copy of today's presentation, that text.help/WRW Feb 19 webinar, you can use that and you will have access to this presentation. So I'm going to give it just a couple of more minutes for both the poll and for people to jump on the webinar. And then we will move forward. And thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. The website for the presentation is text.help/R/W/FEB19 webinar. Okay, I am going to give this just a few more seconds and then I will close the poll. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and it looks like a couple of you have never downloaded Read and Write, so I can definitely cover that today. And then a few of you have downloaded it, but not used it much. So we are really glad you're on this presentation today. We will go through this in a very thoughtful manner so that we can show you kind of the basics of Read and Write. And if you have any follow-up questions at the end of this, don't hesitate to put them in the question box. You can put it either in the chat box or you can raise your hand as well, and we'll try to follow that as we go. So I will be paying attention to the chat box in case anyone has a question. So, hi, I am Laura. My name is Laura Trimble, and I am the Territory Director for Kansas. I actually live in Prairie Village, and my 8-year-old attends Shawnee Mission School District. So I'm very familiar with Kansas and very familiar with the needs of our students regarding literacy and reading comprehension. And I have with me today, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Nicola Peters, and I'm an assistive technology consultant in Blue Valley. I've been working in schools for over 20 years, and most of those with assistive technology. I have a special interest in digital text and how to access that. And I've seen the field change drastically over my time working in assistive technology, and I'm so excited that there's so many great things out there for students right now.
Great. I'm really glad to have Nicole on. So today what we're going to talk about is the UDL problem, and I will relate that to literacy, the search and the solution to help more districts across the state of Kansas, how to pilot and implement Read and Write, and then Nicole is going to take an opportunity to share the successes, the lessons, and some of the challenges that she's found. And then we'll kind of get into what does the future look like and what can you do. So I want to get this started. As I mentioned, my daughter attends Shawnee Mission School District. She's an 8-year-old in 2nd grade, and I am very familiar with I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, but it's Diebel's test, where they're assessing her reading comprehension. And I think that she is not in the minority. My daughter struggles, and I think she might possibly have dyslexia. And I have found out there are very vocal groups across Kansas with thoughts on dyslexia, thoughts on reading comprehension, just the overall state of education in Kansas. So that got me thinking, and I looked on the nation's report card, and I did find that between 2017 and 2019, the Diebel's scores for Kansas has gone down, and we are one of several states that our scores are going down, not up, which is quite interesting. When you look specifically at Kansas, which is represented by that cross, you'll see that the interesting part is right here between 2017 and 2019, a 4-point drop. So something is going on, and I know that everybody is trying to figure out what's going on and what can we do. That's pretty obvious because I can see that through the dyslexic groups in Kansas and the state work, the task force in Topeka, that's just a really prominent problem, and I'm sure you're hearing a ton about it in your school districts. And it probably is getting a bit old. And I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but we obviously in the state of Kansas, a lot of teachers, SPED people, parents, and students, we're all concerned about reading comprehension. And tied into reading comprehension, we know that there's a lot of information that talks about inclusion, and specifically for students who might be identified as needing an IEP or a 504, or just students who have something like dyslexia. So I wanted to speak a little bit about inclusion and UDL. So a lot of your districts, UDL is a hot topic right now, and that's Universal Design for Learning. There may be other districts that this is just kind of on the periphery, but this is an example of a staircase that is not inclusive. If you have any type of physical limitation, a staircase like this is going to be very difficult to climb. But when you look at a modern staircase like this, you see that a ramp has been built within the staircase to make it much more accessible. And a lot of districts are looking at UDL solutions to try to figure out how to provide more means of representation, engagement, and expression, so that for reading comprehension, students have the tools they need in order to engage with text. So I pulled this from the CAST website, which is very much something that I'm guessing most of you are familiar with. So it just talks about representation, engagement, and expression, and what that might look like in the classroom. And here is more information that I grabbed from CAST regarding that. So when I think about UDL and I think about reading, text help and read and write fit very well into that box. So we are a literacy company, and that's what our passion is. We think that literacy is the most important thing for students to be able to succeed. So we really see the read and write tool as a UDL and a literacy tool. So I'm going to focus on that today and focus specifically on Google Chrome, but we also have it for Office 365. So for those of you who have never seen Read and Write, this is what the Read and Write bar looks like. It is a program that sits on top of your Google Chrome. with over 20 tools that are support tools, and I will show you these tools. And we have over 22 million users now. And the reason is they really believe that it is a UDL tool. So when districts purchase Read and Write, a lot of times they will purchase it for the full district so that students of all capabilities have access to these tools. And we have won Google's Technology Partner of the Year award. So that's really exciting. So thinking about what goals there are for districts in the state of Kansas, it seems like, and maybe when Nicole talks, she can talk a little bit about this in her district too. It seems like right now, a lot of the districts are really trying to address this literacy need that has received so much attention from the state capitol, from dyslexia groups, from literacy groups. How do you do that? How do you make it inclusive and work in the classroom? Well, we think that the Read and Write toolbar gives students access so that as they're working on literacy, they'll have the tools they need for whatever they're trying to demonstrate. So we really think this is a classroom tool, not just an individual student tool. And who does it support? It supports kids in a classroom that's focused on personalized learning. It definitely supports ELL. It supports special education, IEPs, 504s at risks, and state testing. But it supports the entire classroom in general. So with that said, I'm going to get into the demonstration part of this. So the most important thing for all of you today is to walk away being able to download Read and Write. So I do have at another point in my slides the link for downloading it, but all you have to do is open up your Chrome and go to the Chrome Web Store. And if you click on the Chrome Web Store and type in text help, you will find Read and Write. We have several different tools here, but for your purposes today, Read and Write is the main extension to add. Also, we have a PDF reader. And for those of you who are looking for math inclusion as well, we have Equatio. All you have to do is come over here, and if it says add extension, click on that extension to add it, and then it will upload it to your Chrome bar. So now that I've done that, I am going to start with a basic Google Doc to show you how Read and Write works. So this is a Google Doc that I pulled up, and it can be any kind of Google Doc. Right up here is my Read and Write puzzle piece. And all I have to do is click it, and it opens right up at the top of my screen. Before I show you the tools, I want to come over here to the upper right-hand side. When you see 3 dots on any Google site, it usually means there's more options. So if I click on that, I can go to my options bar. I can change the voice. I can change the speed. With the prediction, I can choose the number of words it's predicting. I can change the screen masking, and I'm going to come down here to the features and make sure all of my features are turned on. And I click OK, and it will set my toolbar according to the features I choose. So the most important piece of Read and Write is the play button. And I like to say that this is the free button, which is why it's so important. When districts download Read and Write for their students, they automatically get a 30-day access to all of the premium tools. But once the premium access turns off, there are free tools available. And the #1 free tool that has contributed to the fact that we have over 22 million users is just the play button. So I'm going to click play, And I apologize, it won't be the loudest. We have an issue going on in our company with our desktops that's making it hard to play, but I think you'll be able to hear and get the gist. So we're going to start with the play.
Please listen and come up with 3 questions about the story.
Okay, so what you saw is it highlighted in yellow and followed the words in blue. And there's a lot of research behind bimodal reading to show that that's really helpful to students with comprehension issues. And I can click anywhere in the story and click play. I'm going to click play right here.
CC, how is this round?
Okay, that was odd. Let me go somewhere else. I don't know why it did that. Let me click right here. Play. Okay. Something is going on with my bar right at the moment, but you see that when I click it, it highlights in yellow and then follows the words in blue. You can come over here if you decide the voice is not the right voice. I would rather have a male voice than a female voice, or maybe I need to slow her voice down a little bit. There are a lot of options right here that you can come in and change. And then in addition, we have a translation button, and it's right here with several options for languages you can change. I usually keep this in Spanish for most ELA students. Okay, so that is the play button. And I'm going to click out of this really quick and refresh. Anytime I have a trouble with my read and write, all I have to do is click refresh, and it usually fixes whatever the error is. And I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to move on to a website. It's being a little funny with my document. Okay, I'm going to open it back up. And there we go. There's my bar. So the most important button is play. It will play on a Google Doc. It will play on a website. It will even play on a PDF. And I have an example of a PDF. I can use it on this PDF. But going back to that website, I can play. And then right here is the second most important button to me, because again, it's part of the free tools, and that's the translator. So I had it set to Spanish. So I can highlight a word, click on it, and it's going to give me the Spanish translation, and I can have it played aloud. So it plays it in the accent that I chose. And we haven't set one word at a time, because we know your ELA students are working on their English skills. So they're working on learning English. They just may need assistance. So when they need it, when they need help understanding a word, they can use that piece to translate that word. So I've shown you the play button and the translator piece. The pause and the stop work with the play. There's a button right next to pause and stop that works really well on PDFs and on websites. So this is a screenshot reader. When you're on a website that has images that don't necessarily get captured when you're using a reading tool, you can grab the words and it will scan them and read them. So that's a screenshot reader. Also, when you're on a website, for younger kids who are trying to navigate on websites that they're still having trouble reading, we have this great button right here, which is called hover speech. And when you click hover speech, you can hover wherever you put your cursor. and it will read in the spot you choose. Thinking of my own second grader, that can be a really helpful tool as she is working on an assignment in class and trying to keep up. Another thing that teachers and students have available to them, if they're on an article that has a lot of busy images, hyperlinks, and it's just too much, and this could be too much for either young children like my second grader, or it could be that the student has comprehension issues or attention issues, and you just need a more streamlined document. You can come right here to Simplify Page. When I click on Simplify Page, it takes that selection and just makes it a Word doc or a document. And I can come in and I can change the font. You see I have Open Dyslexic here. I can do sans serif. I could do black on white. I could do blue on yellow. And there are a lot of options in here on how I can change that article. So I grabbed the article from this website and I clicked over here, Simplify Page, and it turned it in to this document, and I changed from black on white. So these are all simple tools that can help with reading comprehension. The nice thing about these tools in the classroom is a teacher could put students in stations and have them learn on their own or in a group using the text-to-speech. Or if it's a student who has trouble with concentration, they could put them by themselves with the text-to-speech. They can simplify it. There are a lot of things they can do to differentiate and personalize it in the classroom so that students who are struggling, or even just students who need the extra time, can read for comprehension. These are really great tools. So I showed you Simplify. Another thing that you can do, so you saw the great thing I did with the colors on the Simplify page. Students might need screen masking. So I can click on this screen masking, and right now the way I have it set is just this nice, clean pink overlay. But you can come into the settings. You can change background colors. You can change opacity. You can change the reading light color. So I could set it any way that I want to. To help my student. And this can be helpful to lots of students, not even necessarily students with just identified learning issues. So that's screen masking. Another thing that you can do, and I'm going to come back to this page that I simplified. If you have students who have a lot of issues with attention and they can't get the lessons completed in the classroom, you can take this whole selection and click this button right here, Audio Maker. And when I click Audio Maker, it's going to turn it into an audio file. So I could send the student to lunch with that audio file and they could listen to it. I could send them on the bus or to swim practice or wherever audio file, and they would be able to listen to it as long as they have the ability to listen to an MP3 file. So that's that button right here. And I'd also like to point out, whenever you hover on the buttons, it tells you exactly what they are. So I was right here on the Audio Maker. Okay. The students have access to a picture dictionary and a dictionary. So all I have to do is highlight a word, oscillation, and it's going to find the dictionary definition and a picture if there is one. And it looks like oscillation is a hard word, but let me try climate. Okay. It's the picture dictionary will give me a picture, and then the dictionary will give me a definition with definitions that can be read aloud.
The climate is cold and rainy. Now,
So students have access to both of those. So it's the dictionary and the picture dictionary. Another great tool that you have available to you. Let's say that in reading for comprehension, you want to create a vocab list for the week for your students, or you want to give your students some autonomy and allow them to create their own vocab lists for comprehension for words that they don't understand. You can use these highlighters, which are right next to the translator, and I could highlight, let's see, weather, cyclones, any color I want to use. Let's go lows, regional. And whether it's the teacher creating their vocab for the week or a student working on comprehension, you can highlight as many words as you want and come right here to this vocabulary. And when you click this, it creates a new document in Google that will create a vocab list. So it popped that document right into my Google Drive. So there are the words I selected. There wasn't a picture for lows, and it doesn't look like there was a picture for regional, but there was for weather and cyclones. And I can come to the notes section and write a sentence using the word, or if I'm looking for translation, I can open up my translator and I can grab the word, and there it is. And I could copy that and put it right in. It's really easy to use this. And I know a lot of teachers will build their monthly vocab list. So they might say vocab to 19-20, and they can share these out with their students. So what I did going back to this, I highlighted words using my highlighters, and I created a vocabulary list. A lot of people really love the highlighters when they're beginning to work on more language arts skills beyond just reading comprehension. They can use the highlighters to create vocab, or they can use the highlighters to create collections. And there are so many different ways that you can create a collection. We have a lot of really great teachers who have ideas they've given us about how to do that. And I'm going to show an example really quickly of something that was shared with me for a highlighting tool. So I know someone who created this document as a way of coming up with some great ways to use highlighters for organizational means. So you could do something like problem, causes, solutions, and conclusion. And going back to this website, I could look for the problem and say, okay, problem, problem, cause, another cause, solution. And after I've highlighted for understanding, I can come right here to collect highlights, and I'll click it, And it allows me to choose which colors I want to include or exclude, if I want it by the position in the article or by the color. And then if I click OK, it's going to create a new document with all of my highlights organized by color and a link to the original article. So I could have a student turn in an exercise like this to me, and I can see the link to the article or the document they grabbed this from to know exactly what they were working with. I could spend 4 hours on all of the great tools and benefits of the highlighters and talk about organization with students and how you can help them, and for teachers for that matter. But we don't have that time, so I'm going to move on. But again, I really encourage you to play with the highlighters, trying it out both for collection. And I can share out that great document I just showed. This one. And for vocab. Don't forget about that piece. So, okay, so we have the vocab and the collection and the highlighters. One thing that's really important to know, I have a feeling most of you all are using Google and Google Classroom, but there may be districts across campus that have moved to Microsoft and Office 365. We work there as well. And here are my tools in Office 365. They look exactly the same as my tools in Google, but I'm going to jump into Office 365 and show you this button right here, which is the prediction piece. So the prediction I can turn on, and I can choose if I want it directly under my cursor or if I want it next to my cursor. And you can see as I start typing, it's coming up with the most obvious possibilities of what it is I'm trying to type. And if I'm not sure what the word is, I can hover over it like this. And it spells phonetically. So it will pick up, if I pull that back open, let's see. You can see it's trying to pick up exactly what it is I'm trying to write. So that's the prediction piece. And again, I can go into my options up here in the right-hand corner. And when I click on that, so I have my speech, I can click down to options. I have it set at 10, and I have it set for predict ahead. So that's when I typed physics, it thinks I'm going to write professor or community. And then I can either choose follow under the cursor or have it, I don't like it, it's a personal thing. I don't like it following under my cursor, but I chose that just to show you that's how this looks. And I can. So that is the prediction piece. And you can see how it works both in Google Docs and in Word. I'm going to come back in here real quick. Go back down to my features. I've got some things turned off. Okay. In addition, when it comes to the writing piece, the next most important piece is talk and type. And this is when you have a student who maybe they may be a very ambitious, smart child. It's just they have issues with typing. And I know there are a lot of students who aren't necessarily identified as needing IEPs, but they have significant problems with typing. So you can turn on the text to speech, and I'll show you how that works. Actually, I'm going to go back into Google to show you because it's easy. Okay, to turn on my text to speech, I just pop that open and it will begin to pick up exactly what I'm saying as I speak. and it does a very good job of picking up what I am saying. So that's text to speech. And I'm going to be honest and upfront. It is easiest in Google Docs and in Google. Office, it does work, but I have a much easier time with it in Google. So that is fair warning that that's the truth about that piece. But it's wonderful and it picks up very fast. We also have this button right here called Check It. So once they start typing, they can open Check It, and it's supposed to underline in purple any potential grammatical errors. So I can click on it and it can give me a suggestion, and it might be that I ignore it, or if that's a word and I know it's going to pop up a lot, I can add it to my dictionary. And it's supposed to look for homophones, wrong verb tense, a lot of things. So that is Check It right there. So Check It and the prediction and the talk and type, I really put all of those under writing and learning how to write. And they can be really wonderful pieces. I will tell you, my 8-year-old loves to talk and type. She's very creative. She loves to create stories. Her little fingers are still learning how to use her iPad or use her computer. And when we turn on talk and type, it helps her. And she can play back what she has written, and she loves it. So she will write out a story or talk out a story, and then she'll have it read back. And she'll find places where she wants to make changes, and she'll do that. So that's a lot of fun. Another tool that you have available to you specifically in Google is voice notes. So this is a great tool if you are interacting with students through documents and you want to leave them messages. So if I'm helping a student write a research paper, I can click right here and click this voice note and say, "Good job, Leedy. It really looks like you're developing your paper." Oh, my microphone is having trouble. But I can speak the message and then insert it right into the document. And it will share that out with her. Right there is the message that I just left. So that's under voice notes. You also have this little guy right here, and I'm going to come back to this page that I simplified. I'm going to grab all of this writing, and I'm going to click on this guy. And this is for practicing for fluency. So if you have a student who needs help with reading and fluency, you can click on the child reading the book, have them listen to it read aloud to them as many times as they need to. They can have the screen masking, the translation, the dictionaries available. And then once they've read this several times, they can click this microphone and it will record them as they read back the document. And they can record themselves. It will time them as they are recorded. Then they can stop it and they can play it back to themselves. So they can hear themselves reading. And once they're satisfied with their reading and think, yep, that sounds really good, they can click send to teacher and send it on to you. So that's a really cool tool. Okay. Really quickly, I want to show you, I have a PDF downloaded. And we have additional tools for PDFs. So I downloaded this PDF. I opened it up using Read&Write. And this is a PDF that I took a picture of. It's something that Leedy brought home that she has to practice with. And I was able to upload it. And we could take this and she can use these tools. She can have it read aloud to her. She's got the picture dictionary. So I could click open that picture dictionary. And if Leedy is learning what the words are, she can click on a word, and it will give her the picture. Let's see what it does with tame. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. So you just click on a word and you have either the picture dictionary or the dictionary. And she can have that read aloud to her. She can have the selection read aloud to her. And if there is anything on this PDF that I uploaded that my regular reader has trouble reading, I can use this dotted screen right here, the screenshot reader, and I can say, read that. Okay, so it read, Jake has a pet. In addition, with my Read and Write PDF tools, I can come in here and I could draw something next to it if I wanted to, or add something onto this. I could put, as the teacher or even as the student, I could put a box around it. If I was trying to maybe say, let's pick out the nouns here, something like that. I've got some other shapes that I can draw here. And then Leedy, my child, if this was shared out with her by her teacher, she could come in to this T, click the T, and add her answer. And if she doesn't know how to type it, she can turn on the prediction. Or she could speak the answer. And she also has the ability to change this font size, change things about it. I'm going to click that typewriter again. Come right here. And I will use my prediction, SN. Snake. Whoop. Okay, it's listening to me. But I can put that answer. Let me try this one last time. I can put the answer right there. It's listening to me as I do this webinar, which is why it's adding pieces to this. But you get the idea. They can insert their answers into these documents, and Leedy could share this back to her teacher with her answers inserted. The PDF reader of Read and Write, it has more tools and cool abilities. So that's a whole other webinar as well that I could spend a lot of time on that I don't have. But that's the PDF piece. Okay, I want to really quickly go to the CAST website and look at what it's talking about with ways of having engagement, representation, action, and expression. When you look down the lists, it really matches up well with the Read and Write buttons. And I can go to this site, and I'll share this with you, where we have a specific blog about UDL, where it talks about the specific buttons that can be helpful to students. Perception, language and symbols, comprehension, physical action. I can't say enough about talk and type with my own kid. That one's a really great one. Executive function. The highlighters are so wonderful for executive function. And even text to speech. So it really is a UDL tool that's helpful to all students. So with that, I've kind of told you a little bit about Read and Write. I'm going to open it back up to Nicole to talk about Blue Valley's experience with Read and Write.
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm back. We'll kind of click through these a little bit, Laura, but I wanted just to talk a little bit about our decision-making process and probably things that you want to look at when you're making decisions for technology like this in your district. You know, we looked at the various needs we have. If you want to go ahead and click through the next couple.
I think I gave you
Oh,
access.
did I?
Nicole.
Okay, can I? Oh, okay. So we looked at the tools for a range of students. We have a lot of different types of students in our district, and I'm sure you do too. So we really need to look at what do we need to support across all of those different students, whether it be dyslexia or a writing disability or ELL students. We had a lot of different students that we're looking at supporting. We also looked a lot at ease of use. So in comparing different products that are out there, you know, what type of product was going to make it easiest for the students. And, you know, one of the things about Read and Write is kind of that all-in-one type of bar piece of it. So ease of use was super important to especially support a range of students, all the way from our elementary kids all the way up through our 18 to 21 program. And then we also have a variety of devices in our district. So it was super important to find a tool that would be supported on all of those different devices, whether it be iPads, Chromebooks, MacBooks, PCs. So we have a little bit of everything. And so we wanted to make sure that there was consistency across our students as they age and as they're using different devices, that they can still have those consistent tools with them. So, and then we also, in our particular case, we were looking at making decisions based also on our timing. So we were going through a time of transition with increasing student devices. We didn't have one-to-one devices at all. And so this was a time where we were trying to figure out what was going to work whenever we had devices in the hands of more students. What types of tools did we need, did our kids need to really make those tools the most effective and efficient for them and build on their independence. And this is coming from my SPED background, is that independence is a huge piece for us. We want our kids to be as independent as possible, not just for our SPED kids, though, for everyone. So it goes back to that UDL piece that Laura was talking about. So when you're looking at what types of tools that you might be purchasing for your district or using, I think thinking about the independence piece, again, making it easy for students to use, what are the types of tools that you need? Those are all the things that we needed to look at. And I think text to speech is maybe one of the more guiding pieces, because it's super important. We have a lot of, that's probably one of our highest need pieces, and there's lots of text to speech pieces out there, but finding something that works best within your district in terms of flexibility and being able to have different voices depending on the students, having them be able to adjust it a lot were really important, as well as I think sometimes we underestimate the value of those vocabulary pieces, because we know based on research that students with higher vocabulary levels and skills do better in school. So that is a super important piece, especially whenever we look at some of our populations that maybe don't have the exposure to that vocabulary as much. So tools to support that really can help a lot. And then the other important piece with that within our district too was in terms of making decisions, and this is what you in your district would need to look at, like how do you bring in all those key players to be able to talk about what's going to work for what works best for your district whenever you're comparing out different tools. So you know, we as a SPED team and IT team and blended learning were able to come together and have kind of a mutual understanding of the need and across all of our kids. And so that's how we made some of our decisions. So those are just important things to think about as you move forward as well. Okay, implementation. And this is just our experience with implementation. We looked at different tools, and we ended up with text help with Read and Write. And so some of the key pieces about our implementation, we started, we do have a district level, everyone has access to Read and Write. So it's not a SPED tool, it's not just a gen ed tool, it's something everybody has access to. So we started out in fall of 2018, so really not too long ago. And that's when our students that next spring, in the spring of 2019, were going to start getting more devices in. So this started a little bit before that, but we knew that was coming. So we started doing some trainings with individual students. A lot of it with that piece was meeting with individual specific students, and from the AT part was my experience. Kids that really needed some specific tools and maybe needed devices early. And so we were doing student trainings, and then we were doing team trainings. And then we also moved on in the fall to doing building team trainings. So we had 2 to 3 staff people per building, a mix of gen ed and SPED, and they came in and they would do a half a day basically training with me to learn how to use it, and hope that they can go back and share that with their staff. And then we also, in that, a lot of the groups we ended up with included counselors, ESOL, SPED teachers, gen ed teachers. So we had a really nice mix of people. I think that's one thing that for me was eye-opening that I didn't really expect, was the ESOL, ELL population. I had not interacted with that group as much. And so they were really one of my big groups that kind of jumped into this big time and really kept asking for more information. They wanted more and more and more. I did some specific trainings with those teachers, and did an evening meeting with some parents and students, and they really, really, really enjoyed being able to have some tools that all of their kids had access to that they can share with, especially a lot of those vocabulary pieces. So, and then we continue to do building trainings as needed and team trainings as needed, as requested. And then in the spring of 2019, we continued through building teams. Some of those building teams went back and trained with some of their staff, and I think they also needed some time to play with it on their own and kind of see how it worked for them, so they could share that a little bit. And then I, from the AT assistive technology area, also supported as needed as well. So I was doing, maybe there was a specific student with some unique needs, and so I was doing trainings with those teams or with that student. So it was a little bit of everything. We're trying to meet the needs of a lot of different people. And then in the fall of 2019, and as we're moving into the spring semester of 2020, we're continuing to do more training, more individual training. I also had created a Canvas course. We use Canvas in our district, so I created a Canvas course to be able to get mass information out to a large group of people. We also shared that with parents as they like information, and with students. So it's a way to be able to quickly share with a lot of people, to be able to have that Canvas course up for them. But we continue to do training for everybody that needs it. And I feel like as we go, we're continuing to see that some of those original building teams are starting to feel more confident, and different people throughout our district are starting to feel more confident with being able to use Read and Write, and then being able to turn around and be the trainer. So kind of that trainer piece. So I think if people get more comfortable with it, they continue to share it more with staff and students as well. And then successes. That just goes back to what Laura was saying. Universal design for all students to access has been huge. I feel like we've had some really positive responses from families that are excited that we were able to provide something for everyone. Because as we know, groups like something like this dyslexia isn't necessarily just a SPED issue. It's affects a lot of students that maybe some of them aren't in SPED and maybe they're on 504s, or maybe they have some needs where they're getting through and they don't need special services. But supports like this have been super helpful for those students. So universal design is a huge piece of that as we continue to move forward. And then consistency across the platforms has been great, because I've been able to see now kids going from a Chromebook in middle school, they're going to high school with their MacBook, and it's nice because those pieces work the same between there. So they are not having to relearn how to use a tool. And as I mentioned before, I think student independence is huge. For everyone, for all students, specifically my experience in the special education world, student independence is one of our biggest topics frequently. And if we can provide a period of time where a student can use a tool, such as the text reader or the speech to text, to be able to work independently on their own, and maybe they couldn't do that before because they needed an adult to read to them, or they struggled through typing or writing or needed a scribe. Those bits of independence for students can be a huge impact on all of our student population. Lessons learned. Some of the things that we're continuing to learn and continuing to do and learn about is just to continue to analyze how to implement more or faster or with more people. I think we're still in the early stages of using Read and Write. But I think sometimes people want to suddenly have everybody be an expert. And it's really hard to make everybody an expert within even a year. So we continue to work on how do we implement better? How do we train teachers better? How do we train more teachers and more staff? And then one other thing that we also have learned is that we started out not pushing this out to everyone. You had actually, even though we could get it, we had to go to the Chrome store individually and pull it down, which did cause some frustrations and delays, and people just not understanding how to easily get to it. And so that caused a little bit of delay, and I think some people learning how to use it or getting to it. And so now it is being pushed out to all of our students and staff a little easier. So hopefully that's going to continue to help us going forward. And then future-wise, we are going to continue to reassess how to support and train our staff and our students, how to get information out to them quickly. And like I said, one of the nice things that I'm starting to see more of is that trainer models. I think once people become comfortable using it, then they can turn around and be comfortable training other people, and it becomes a little bit of a domino effect with that. So I'm starting to really see that and feel that. And I think that that's one thing. Again, we can't make everybody an expert user overnight, but we're continuing to work on that. And how do we share that information with them? And like I said, we have Canvas. If you guys have other things that you use, really think about with whatever tool you're using, how are you training teachers and getting them that information? So I think that's all from me, Laura.
All right. Oh, I cannot. Nicole has done a really great job, and I can't thank you enough, Nicole, for sharing your knowledge with everybody. She really has done a great job. Just really quickly, places to look for funding. That's typically where we see most school districts pull for funding. And then we do have great pilots available. We can even do 60 and 90-day pilots, which now is pilot season. So if you're interested, let's get that going. And then lastly here is our contact information. You can reach out to me or Nicole, and we have videos here, how to download here. There's my information. Please let me know what you think and what you need. And thank you so much for attending today. We are going to stop the webinar now.